right. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. I hope you're having a great Friday afternoon out there. This is Justin with Extreme Health Radio, and I want to thank you. We're broadcasting worldwide from Southern California, so thanks for taking some time out. The last time I checked, we were in 80 countries. A week ago, we were in 70 countries. Now we're in 80 countries, which is quite amazing. So thank you for all your support and for listening to us today. We do shows 3 days a week on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, so you can always check our show schedule page for that. And we're on Facebook too, if you want to check us out, extremehealthradio.com/Facebook. And thank you to Mr. Mike Adams of naturalnewsradio.com for having us on his network there. We are really appreciative of that. So, and for reference, this is Friday, November 30th, 2012, and this is episode number 42. So you'll be able to find the transcription, the show notes, and any websites or any details of the interview at extremehealthradio.com/42. And you can always email me too, justin@extremehealthradio.com. I love getting your emails. It's a lot of fun. Or you could call me at 949-391-7363, and I'll play your message to our guest live on the air. So that'd be a great thing to do too. And if this show, I want to let you know, this show is brought to you by the Bellicon Rebounder. In my opinion, it's the best rebounder on the market today. It's an amazing machine. Check it out at extremehealthradio.com/Bellicon. That's BELLICON. And today we have Sally Fallon on the line, but I want to just run over our show schedule for the next week. On Monday, we've got Dr. Dawn Ewing, and she'll be talking about the role of our teeth and how they play a role in diseases and cancer. She also does a lot of work with blood work, meridian stress analysis, thermography, and heavy metal detox, and all that kind of good stuff. So that should be a great show. And then next Wednesday, we've got Konstantin Monastresky. Tough name to say, but he wrote a book called The Fiber Menace. And he makes the claim that fiber is very, very unhealthy, which is very, very interesting. So we'll be glad to talk to him about that. Then we've got Deborah Lynn Dadd. She'll be talking about the toxic chemicals that we have in our home and how to make our home more organic and more safe. So that should be a good show too. So stay tuned for those shows. And today we've got Sally Fallon. It should be an amazing show. She is a nutrition researcher, an activist, author, homemaker, and chef. And she's also, I could say that, the author of Nourishing Traditions, the cookbook that challenges politically correct nutrition and diet dictocrats, The Fourfold Path to Healing, and Eat Fat to Lose Fat. And in her spare time, she runs a little organization called the Weston A. Price Foundation. So, oh, wow. Thank you so much, Sally, for being on today. We really, really appreciate that.
Thank you, Justin. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so where are you based out of these days?
I'm based in Washington, D.C. That's where the Weston A. Price Foundation is based. It's just sort of where I ended up. I'm actually originally from California. I'm born in California. But this is the place for me to be and for the foundation to be where the seat of government is. And the three largest libraries in the world.
Oh, wow.
The Library of Congress, the National Institutes of Health, and the Department of Agriculture libraries.
Wow. Now, do you go in there very often to those libraries?
Well, it's funny. I used to spend a lot of time in the libraries, but you can do so much of it online now that I don't anymore. Yeah. But it was very helpful in the early days.
When you have Google, I mean, why do you need to leave your house, right?
Well, there are things in the Library of Congress that you can't find on Google, that's for sure. And we actually have people now, interns and things, who will do that for us because it's very time consuming.
And so you also are you're at the helm of the New Trends Publishing Company as well, and that's where is that the publishing company where you publish all your books?
Yes, that's my little company. I had to found that company because no one wanted to publish Nourishing Traditions. I couldn't find a publisher. So I've had the last laugh on them because I've sold 500,000 books now. And I've had several publishers come to me and want to buy the rights to the book, which, of course, I say no.
Oh, wow. That's great. So now you
had your chance, right?
I know. You stick it to them, right? So you had the book Eat Fat to Lose Fat and The Fourfold Path to Healing. That one looks really interesting to me, The Fourfold Path to Healing.
Well, The Fourfold Path to Healing is one of 8 titles that I publish in New Trends Publishing, and I wrote that with Dr. Tom Cowan. That was a very interesting book to write. He is an anthroposophical physician in San Francisco, uses our dietary advice, but the book combines that with natural healing methods, herbs, homeopathy, etc. Eat Fat, Lose Fat was something different. That was one of those real New York publishers who came to myself and Mary Enig. The gal who wanted to publish that book had read a story in the Inquirer of all places about soy and thyroid disease. About coconut oil and how it supports thyroid function. And she had a thyroid problem, and she wanted us to do this book for her. So we did that with a major publisher.
Wow. Yeah, because that sounds like a nice title that would, sell well because of this whole thing we've got in our culture about fat,
Well, the interesting thing about Eat Fat, Lose Fat is that there are people who just love the book. They say it's a much better book than Nourishing Traditions because we had a ghostwriter who wrote things in a different style. I have a certain style, but she wrote this in a little bit more public-friendly style, and I think that appealed to a lot of people. One of the things we do in that book, Eat Fat, Lose Fat, is demolish the cholesterol myth and do it. And, we do it in just a short chapter. And I thought that part of it was very well done.
Oh, wow. Well, the cholesterol issue was on my list as one of the main things I wanted to cover today. So since you mentioned it, let's talk a little bit about, the cholesterol issues that people have or they think they have from their doctors and why it's such an issue with people today.
Yeah, the whole idea that high cholesterol and saturated fat cause heart disease is, first of all, it's completely wrong. It's total bunkum. They do not cause heart disease, and for vast majority of the population, you don't have to worry about your cholesterol levels. Mm-hmm. But what this theory has done, and deliberately so, it has pushed us down the wrong path and to low-fat foods, processed foods, foods devoid of nutrients we need to be super healthy. And so it's created an incredible health crisis. And, I can say without reservation that what we're seeing in our children today, the extreme health problems from allergies, asthma, to all of the learning disabilities and behavior problems, this is the direct result of the cholesterol myth. The idea that we should be avoiding cholesterol and saturated fat. These dictates have been imposed on pregnant women. They're imposed on nursing women, on children from the age of 1. They're told not to get whole milk and not to get butter and egg yolks and so forth. Mm-hmm. And it's just created a complete disaster in the children are paying the price for this phony theory.
Wow. So now with the cholesterol, they're trying to get people down, I think even down to 120 is some of the numbers I've heard, which to me sounds crazy.
Well, the first number they picked was 200, and there was no scientific justification for picking 200 as the risk point where more people were risk for. If you were over 200, you were more at risk for heart disease, is what they said, and there's no scientific justification for that. Okay. But what they found was that half the people getting heart disease or having heart attacks were under 200. Mm-hmm. So they said, oh, well, it must be your cholesterol's not low enough. And this is like crazy logic here. Mm-hmm. And so they're trying to get people's cholesterol lower and lower and lower. And what happens is you end up not being able to make hormones, not being able to make stress hormones because they're made out of cholesterol, you can't make sex hormones because they're made out of cholesterol. Mm-hmm. You can't make bile salts, which are made out of cholesterol, so you can't digest fats. You get into this vicious circle of needing fats but can't digest fats. Oh. And so on and so forth. You just end up with these depressed, impotent, infertile, unhappy people with digestive problems is what you get when you try to lower cholesterol and just keep lowering it and lowering it.
Do you know what the number is for those thresholds to be met that you were just talking about? Is it below a certain number where all those things can't happen?
I don't know. I don't have a specific number. Some people need a lot of stress hormones, make a lot of sex hormones. You would expect them to have high cholesterol because the body is making the material it needs to make these hormones. Someone who's very laid back, and doesn't get stressed out about things, you would expect them to have low cholesterol. That's what people say about me. I don't know if it's true that I don't seem to get flustered. Well, my cholesterol is quite low, and I'm eating all the fats. And last time I tested it was 189. Wow. And I eat fats and egg yolks, and I mostly eat cholesterol. But everybody's cholesterol needs are different, and it is just ridiculous to try to put everybody in the same box as far as cholesterol is concerned. Now, blood sugar is a different thing. Blood sugar does need to be in a fairly narrow range for you to be healthy. And if you've got wild swings of blood sugar, something's really wrong. But cholesterol is a very different thing than blood sugar.
Yeah, it seems interesting to me because as long as they can find a correlation between heart attack and cholesterol, which I'm not even sure that they have.
It's a very, very small correlation. And we have to remember that a correlation is not the same as a risk factor. It's just a correlation. Yeah. And
then once they can do that, and then they can manipulate whatever finding they have with the drug, I mean, you can see the potential dollar signs in their eyes, Yeah.
Yeah. These cholesterol-lowering drugs are the biggest bonanza the drug companies have ever had. And my biggest fear is they're starting to do these over-the-counter. And, of course, they'll be advertised. And that means that women of childbearing age will end up taking these drugs. And they cause horrible, horrible birth defects.
Yeah, it's sad. So now, if someone is on the drugs like Lipitor and things like that, we can't tell, obviously, people to get off of them, but...
I can.
Oh, okay.
I have no problem telling people to get off of them. The blood pressure drugs, if you're on blood pressure drugs, you need to taper off very carefully and slowly, but you can go cold turkey off the statins.
Oh, good. Okay. Well, I wasn't sure what to want to go out of bounds there.
It's a decision that has to be in your own heart. You can't just say, I'm going to do this because Sally told me or Justin told me to do this. What I'm saying is you can do it, but the decision is yours. And the first and foremost thing I would suggest is go to the Weston A. Price website and read the article, The Dangers of Statin Drugs. Or just Google Dangers of Statin Drugs, and that will come up.
Dangers of statin drugs. Okay, I will put this in the show notes. And are there any other supplements, or I should say any other supplements that people should be on if they're on these types of drugs for the heart?
Yes. Let's just say you're going to stay on the drugs and you don't believe us and so forth. That's fine, but the drugs do create some real deficiencies. One is the CoQ10, because you need cholesterol to produce CoQ10, and CoQ10 is needed for your muscles to work. This is why we see in people who've been on these statins for any length of time, they get muscle weakness. You get a lot of heart failure. Heart failure rates have doubled since the statins came online here. And the heart is a muscle, and so that you can understand. And the other thing you see with these statins is debilitating back pain. And that's because the muscles that are holding up your spine start wasting away.
Oh.
Yeah, so the CoQ10 can somewhat protect you from that. Now, the other thing that the statins do is they prevent the absorption of the fat-soluble vitamins, and particularly my favorite vitamin, vitamin A. So I would strongly suggest that you be on some cod liver oil to give you extra A and D. But once again, how much you absorb is problematic.
Okay, so cod liver oil and CoQ10 are some good things to look at.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah, the cholesterol thing is such a huge issue, and I feel for people because, if they don't know any better, their doctors really kind of railroad them into getting.
Oh, they absolutely do. I saw this with my parents, Justin. He had this pill-pushing doctor had both my parents on statin drugs. In fact, my father was on 2 statin drugs before he died. And he died in misery. He had debilitating back pain. The other thing that we see if people have been on these drugs, especially long-term, is mental decline, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's.
Oh. Do you see those after a certain amount of time, like maybe if someone's been on them for 10 years or 15 years kind of thing?
Yeah, everybody's different, of course. What they found with the muscle wasting and the muscle pains is if you were active, if you were an athlete and physically active, it happened more quickly than if you were a kind of sedentary person.
Wow.
So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah,
so everybody's different in how they respond. With my dad, he had the muscle wasting and back pain, but his mind was sharp till the end. My mom was kind of the opposite, so everybody's different.
Wow, that's fascinating. So I want to move on a little bit to, actually, we have to take a quick break here. I want to talk a little bit about tooth decay and pregnancy and some of these issues that people have, especially, maybe in the vegan crowd, because we have a lot of vegans that listen to our stuff and things like that. So I want to talk a little bit about tooth decay and pregnancy and some of these nice foods that you recommend. So we're with Sally Fallon, and her website is westonaprice.com and newtrends.org. Oh, I'm sorry, westonaprice.org and newtrendspublishing.com, and we'll have her Facebook and website and everything else linked up to this show page. So make sure to visit her information there online, and we'll be right back with Sally Fallon after this break. Hey, what's up, everybody? I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about the Paleo Summit that's put together by our man, Sean Croxton. And this is a summit that took place live over 8 days, and I believe there's 23 video presentations, 23 audio files, 18 hours of cutting-edge information, and 300 pages of transcripts. Now, this program is really an amazing program if you're looking to make some permanent changes in your diet, and if you're tired of struggling with fat loss or weight loss, and you're struggling with food addictions, and you're just looking for a permanent solution, this is definitely something you want to check out. You can find it at extremehealthradio.com/Paleo Summit, and they talk about things like gluten sensitivities, how to curb food addictions and cut back on food cravings, how animal foods and things like cholesterol do not cause heart disease or degenerative diseases, and how to deal with things like bone loss and cancer and muscle pain, autoimmune diseases, and how to burn fat and all that kind of stuff. So if you're looking to change your diet once and for all, definitely check that out. It's extremehealthradio.com/Paleo Summit. All right, let's get back to this interview. Okay, thank you for holding on. We are with Sally Fallon, and her website is westonaprice.org and newtrendspublishing.com. And Sally, with a lot of people, I think my story might be reminiscent for a lot of people. I originally got into health through somewhat of a vegan diet, and then went raw food for many, many years, and then, had some issues with that. But now I kind of eat a more traditional diet. I still do a lot of raw food, but some of these issues that people can have with changing their diet to a vegan style diet is tooth decay. And I was wondering if you knew kind of a lot about why that is in people.
Yes, that is one of the first things that usually happens on the vegan diet. Then you get fatigue, and also sometimes you get a lot of mental issues. Mm-hmm. That's from B12 deficiency. But the tooth decay is just not enough minerals, but more importantly, not enough of the fat-soluble activators. Now, that is my favorite subject to talk about, the fat-soluble activators. These were the vitamins that Dr. Price studied. They're vitamins A, D, and K. Mm-hmm. And they're found uniquely in animal fats of grass-fed animals or organ meats and certain types of seafoods, egg yolks, and so forth. And these vitamins are needed for mineral assimilation. So you might be getting lots of minerals in your vegan diet, lots of minerals in your plant foods that you're eating, but you can't use them without the fat-soluble activators. And you won't get those fat-soluble activators until you're eating the animal fats.
Wow.
So that's what happens with the vegan diet and the tooth decay.
Is tooth decay, do you think your teeth and your skin are some of maybe the first two things that you'll start to notice that go wrong if you're on a wrong diet?
Oh, well, everyone's different. Some people, have the mental issues. Some people have the fatigue. I would say if you start out with very, very strong teeth, it might be a while before you see the tooth problems.
Oh, I see.
But definitely tooth decay is a sign of mineral deficiencies and lack of fat-soluble vitamins. This is the really interesting thing about tooth decay. The number one thing that protects us against tooth decay is vitamin K. If you have a lot of vitamin K in your saliva, you do not get tooth decay, or you're very unlikely to get tooth decay. Now, vitamin K, there are a couple of plant sources of vitamin K, fermented foods like natto and sauerkraut will provide vitamin K. But mainly we get vitamin K from the fats and organ meats of grass-fed animals.
Wow. So, yeah, vitamin K. Now, if someone's interested in this type of issue, we also had Ramil Nagel on episode 22, so people can look that up. But vitamin K, is that also predominantly like in egg yolks and things like that?
Yes, it's in egg yolks, butter, liver, animal fats from grass-fed animals.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I'll tell you, the highest animal source is cheese, because you not only have cheese in the butter fat, but you not only have vitamin K in the butter fat, but more vitamin K is formed during the fermentation process. So vitamin K is a product of fermentation, and the animals put it in their fats.
Wow. So now with Weston Price and his work, and he kind of went around the world for, I think, was it 10 years and studied these cultures? And so with all of that work, it's looking like the teeth are so critical for your health as far as their relationship to disease and all of these issues with children these days needing braces and all of that stuff. It just doesn't seem normal.
This is, when he traveling the world, he found populations that had no tooth decay and no crowded teeth. Can you hear me there, Justin?
Yes.
Oh, okay. I thought we blanked out a minute.
No problem.
And so that was the sort of touchstone for him. What were these people eating? And this is, so many people were struggling with this question, what is a healthy diet? Mm-hmm. And he answered it by saying, if the diet results in freedom from tooth decay and straight teeth, generation after generation, so that was a healthy diet, because the teeth you could see and inspect, and they were kind of the mirror for what was going on in the rest of the body.
Yeah, it's wild, because I know people who throughout the years, their teeth have literally crumbled. Yeah. They're completely falling apart and coming in all crooked and needing braces and all of these things, and people getting their wisdom teeth removed. There should be enough room and space in your mouth, right? Yes,
there should be. And the traditional people that he studied had very broad faces, high cheekbones, broad faces. They were very attractive people. Mm-hmm. And there was great big palates for all their teeth fit into. It's rare for a child to be born in the United States today that doesn't need braces. Because their palates are so narrow. Except, the big exception is the children whose parents have followed our dietary advice since before conception, who prepare for pregnancy with a nutrient-dense diet and eat that way during pregnancy, lactation, and then feed their children that way. These children don't need braces. They're beautiful, attractive, robust children, well-behaved, and they are, they're our hope for the future.
Wow. It's amazing that you can do that within one generation, because it seemingly has taken many, many, many generations of eating processed carbohydrates and things like that, and our ancestors eating all this, in the last 100 years or so or more. And it's amazing that you can make one, shift in one generation and have that kind of an outlook with your children. It's crazy, isn't it?
Well, I would say that it's really been about 3 generations on processed foods. The diet in America up to certainly the First World War and maybe the Second World War, unless you were very poor, the diet was a good one. We were eating butter and cream and organ meats and raw milk, and and taking cod liver oil. So we had a good diet in this country. Mm-hmm. And we've been kind of coasting on that diet for the last 3 generations. And I would say that you can't turn everything around in one generation. Just to give you my own example, I needed braces, and I have a very strong contact lens prescription, so I have very poor eyesight. Mm-hmm. I was able to fix the teeth in my children in one generation. None of my children needed braces, but they all still need glasses.
Oh, okay.
But their prescriptions are not as strong as mine was. And if they, continue this same kind of diet with their children, we should see children with good teeth and perfect eyesight. I remember my dad used to say at the table, he said, your mom and I have straight teeth and we don't need glasses. I don't understand why you kids need braces and glasses. And so I was able to turn back in one generation the teeth, but not the eyesight.
Wow, that's amazing. And so you talk a lot about organ meats and things like that. And I've never dived into the organ meats. I know I want to. In your book, in either the Nourishing Traditions or the Eat Fat to Lose Fat, do you have ways of preparing these organ meats so that they taste good?
Yeah, the best way is to make a pate, a chicken liver pate. The chicken liver is not as strong, and you mix it with some butter and herbs and things, and that makes it. That's just an easy, delicious way to eat organ meats.
Okay.
And I have a couple of recipes for liver, calf's liver, and it's, for many people that takes getting used to, but it really can be delicious, especially if it's nice and fresh.
Okay. And is that in the Nourishing Traditions book?
Yes. And then in our shopping guide for the Weston A. Price Foundation, we have sources of pate. Just to give you one example, U.S. Wellness Meat makes a liverwurst made out of calf's liver. It's just delicious.
Oh, wow.
So there's plenty of ways to eat organ meats, and that was the big challenge in the past. I say it's a way of making offal taste good. and we need to get back to putting organ meats into our hot dogs and sausage and things too.
Yeah.
That's what people did.
Yeah, I agree. So what are some of the more exotic organ meats that you've eaten?
Well, I like brain, actually. It's one of my favorite organ meats. I lived in Iran when I was in high school, and we had brain once a week, scrambled brains. Mm-hmm. But it's very hard to get brains today. Wow. And I know my husband won't eat brains when I do get them and cook them. So I like brains. I like marrow. And kidneys, if they are cooked the right way, can be very good. You know, probably one of the most delicious organ meats is sweetbreads. You can bread them and fry them. They're just like chicken nuggets.
Oh, wow.
Better than chicken nuggets, yes.
Yeah, when I was I lived in Hungary in 1995 for 3 months or so, and I was able to have some brain back then, and I actually liked it. I thought it was pretty good, and people were so freaked out, but I just think our culture's not used to that kind of thing. Yeah,
and we definitely need to bring that kind of thing back.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so the organ meats, so do you eat a lot of those every week kind of a thing, or do you eat them every day? Or?
Well, I try to eat the pate a couple times a week.
Okay.
And you don't have to eat organ meats every day. No culture did. They ate muscle meats too. But I do try to eat the liver a couple times a week. Another thing I try to eat at least a couple times a month is fish eggs. So I get the little jars of blonde caviar, which is not particularly expensive, and have that with sour cream and onions, on a little cracker or something.
Oh, really? So it's called blonde caviar?
Mm-hmm. Whole Foods carries it, and it's the least expensive kind of caviar that you can buy.
Okay, I got to try that out.
Or salmon roe. Those are the bigger orange-looking eggs.
Okay.
So there's a number of ways that you can have fish eggs.
Yeah, I feel like I've heard over the years that the way the kings used to eat, and the kings used to eat all of these rich organ meats, and all the peasants got all the muscle meats. Is that true?
Well, I don't know about that, but I was just editing an article about Slovenia, and they were saying that the upper classes ate the fat. They ate the pig fat, and I guess they had organ meats also, but the lower classes and the peasants didn't have access to a lot of fat. So they would not be as robust or as long-lived as the aristocracy.
Wow, that's interesting. Now you got me all jazzed up to try some organ meats. I think I'm going to do it now.
Well, my book, Nourishing Tradition, has a whole chapter on organ meats.
Oh, it does? A whole chapter. Excellent. Okay, so I wanted to ask you about the pregnancy issue that people have and all this infertility and stuff like that. And I think that your kind of diet helps, with that tremendously, doesn't it?
Absolutely. We've had many women who could not get pregnant go on our diets and find themselves pregnant. So that's the first thing you want to try when you can't get pregnant is our diet. I don't know if you saw the paper this morning. It said the birth rate in America is the lowest it's ever been.
Jeez, wow.
This is an all-time low, and so many women wanting to have children and unable to. It's a very heartbreaking situation. Now, one of the key issues here is all the soy in the diet, because the soy is an anti-fertility food. It's full of estrogens that block fertility. Mm-hmm. And so people need to get off the soy. They need to get on a good, rich diet with plenty of animal foods, butter, egg yolks, and so forth. And if you have been having trouble conceiving, or if you've been a vegan or vegetarian and you want to get pregnant, I would really caution you, because this diet, our diet will get you pregnant, but you don't want to get pregnant right away. You want to take 6 months to 2 years and build up your nutritional stores before you have a baby.
Gosh, could you imagine if everyone did that in the type of population that we would create? That'd be amazing.
Oh, we would have. This is the first step to having a utopian society: is healthy people and healthy children. And I can tell you, Justin, that the children born to the parents who are doing our diet, they are beautiful children, beautiful, intelligent, and calm. They're not they're easy children to bring up. And there's a joy to bring these children up.
Wow. Yeah, I believe it. And so with the diet and the pregnancy and preparation for being pregnant, would you obviously recommend that both the mother and father eat this way? Yeah, the father needs to prepare also, because the quality of his sperm, of course, is dependent on the nutrition and will have an effect on the baby. So yes, and obviously the whole family needs to follow this diet. And it's not a hard diet to follow. You don't deprive yourself. You can have obviously you can have all these delicious, satisfying fats on the diet. You have meat, you have grains on the diet. The grains need to be properly prepared. That's a whole other theme. Salt is in our diet. Even sweet things are in our diet. So this is a diet. What we like to say is, we're not telling you what not to eat. We're telling you how to eat all of these different types of foods so that you can include them in your diet. And it's really a liberating philosophy. It's not a philosophy that says no. It's a philosophy that says yes. Yeah, I don't think you're going to have many problems from men with this diet, because it sounds great, doesn't it?
I know. It's funny, because women have been told from the time they're young that they can't eat fats, as sinful to eat fats. I've had women tell me that they felt guilty when they ate butter. They had to get over their sense of guilt to eat butter. And we've also been told that it's vulgar to eat lard, to use lard, and thereby denying ourselves one of the healthiest cooking fats. Full of vitamin D. So we basically have ended up with eating pathologies, extreme sense of guilt over food, because we have told people that they can't have the very foods they need the most.
Wow, that's just, well, I believe it. And people have such issues with food and struggle with addictions and stuff. And
binging and splurging, they deny, I say they go on the puritanical diet, low fat, high fiber, low salt, approved by dietitians, impossible to stay on. And so they try to be on this low fat puritanical diet all day long, and then by evening they are so starved for fats that they end up eating the pornographic foods. Yeah, they'll stand at the freezer and eat a half gallon of ice cream still in the freezer there.
So you mentioned a few minutes ago soy, and what are some of the other things that women should avoid, maybe if they're looking to get pregnant?
Well, any xenoestrogens, so that would be the soy foods, of course, any estrogenic drugs. There's estrogens in plastics, so no plastic bottles. You want to avoid all of the industrial chemicals if you can. Definitely get on the cod liver oil, because your best protection against all of these toxins is vitamin A. Vitamin A is the great protector. Vitamin A, okay. Against pesticides, industrial chemicals, and things like that.
Now, do you mention a place to get the cod liver oil online?
Yes. Yeah, we have looked into the cod liver oil issue very carefully. There's really only one manufacturer that we recommend. He's in the United States, and he's doing it the traditional way by fermentation. And this cod liver oil is extremely clean and pure. And there's many people distributing this cod liver oil, but one basic source. So go to westinaprice.org, and then there's right on the homepage a link to something that says cod liver oil, our #1 superfood.
Oh, okay.
And read the details there. And we give you the dosages, and we give you the studies about cod liver oil. So it's all right there.
Wow, interesting. Okay, so that's westinaprice.org.
Yes.
We are with Sally Fallon. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back after this break. Her website, again, is westonaprice.org and newtrendspublishing.com. And we'll be right back with Sally Fallon after this break. Hey guys, thanks for listening. If you have been following our work for any length of time, you understand the role of beneficial bacteria. And I'm wondering if you have incorporated any fermented foods into your diet. There's a great course recommended by Donna Gates, actually, and it's called How to Ferment Anything. And you can check it out at extremehealthradio.com/ferment. And it teaches you how to make all of these amazing, wonderful fermented foods. And if you know anything about the role of bacteria in digestion, it's absolutely critical for you to have fermented foods in your diet. Every culture has had fermented foods as part of their staple in their diet for as long as you can go back and remember. So I highly recommend learning how to make fermented foods and incorporating these foods into your diet, because they are extremely powerful for helping you to digest your food, improve your digestion, and as you know, all disease begins in the colon. So having better digestion and increasing your load of beneficial bacteria is going to help you to prevent sicknesses and diseases, colds and flus, as well as more major diseases as well. So I highly recommend you learning how to ferment some foods, and they taste delicious too, just so you know. So check it out at extremehealthradio.com/ferment to learn more. Okay, we're having a lot of fun with Sally Fallon here from westonaprice.org. And hey, Sally, I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the celiac disease that people have, IBS, and all of these gut and intestinal issues. It's just kind of rampant in our society, and I think a lot of people are dealing with these types of things. And so what are your thoughts about all of that?
Yeah, I think there's two things that are causing this. One is the low-fat, low-cholesterol diet. During the formative period, the gut does not form properly, and people don't realize, but the gut needs just as much cholesterol to form properly as the brain. In fact, the cholesterol in our food is actually taken up by the cells in the gut, and it's very important to gut integrity. So that's one thing. We have these children coming along and young people who do not have properly formed intestinal tracts. And then secondly is the very careless way that we eat grains in this country. First of all, we introduce them way too soon, and they're not prepared correctly. And when you look at traditional diets, many traditional cultures had grains, but they were very careful how they prepared these grains, usually by a long soaking, sour soaking, or sourdough techniques. And instead, we're eating very rough whole grains that haven't been prepared properly. We're eating things like granola, which is impossible to digest, undigestible, or the extruded breakfast cereals, which are also very problematic. So we are eating our grains in ways, the grains that we eat are toxic because they haven't been prepared properly. There's lots of natural toxins in grains. These are neutralized by the proper preparation, and we create toxins when we do the extrusion process to make breakfast cereals.
Wow. And so in your book, you talk about how to work with grains.
Yes, I have a whole very large grain chapter, and the grains are soaked or mostly soaked in acidic, something slightly acidic.
It's amazing that, grains are almost like this food that are just, it's so tricky to work with grains, and it's so, you have to do the right thing. It almost seems like, we weren't meant for grains, or it's just, I don't know.
It's true. We cannot digest grains. In fact, no animal can digest grains. Grains are designed to be indigestible. They're designed to go through you. But most animals have a way of digesting grains, grinding them in their teeth or in their gullets, like a chicken. And then they would have a special, at least one stomach. Most herbivorous animals have several stomachs. At least one of those stomachs would ferment the grains. It would be a fermentation tank. Now, humans don't have a fermentation tank in their bodies. We only have one stomach, and we have a very simple digestive tract, like most carnivores. And so we need to use our heads and pre-digest these grains outside of the body by fermenting them. That breaks them down and liberates all the nutrients in grains and creates extra vitamins, liberates the minerals, And so when we do that, then the grains are really very good for us. And if you go back and you go back far enough in all the different countries of the world, you will find that this was the only way they prepared grains in the past.
Wow. Yeah, it makes sense. And then when you get this total unconscious way that, mega corporations are preparing these grains, and if you think about the grains, I mean, they're just about in 3 meals of everyone's diet today. It's crazy.
Yeah. And by the way, we have the added problem of the genetically engineered grains, especially for most people that would be corn, which is these genetically engineered grains are very hard on the digestive tract.
Yeah, and I believe, maybe you can let me know if I'm right on this, that corn is the most genetically modified crop on the planet. Is that right?
It's corn or soy and maybe canola.
Okay.
The four biggies are cotton, corn, soy, and canola. You know what?
My wife and I were talking about this last night, and we're talking about canola oil. Now, that's in just about everything. What is canola? What is canola oil? What is that?
Yeah, okay. So canola oil is a renamed oil. It's comes from rapeseed.
Okay.
And that is a traditional oil. It's an oil that's easy to get out of the seed. It's used in India, but they didn't think that was a very good name. And also there was some studies showing that rapeseed oil contributed to some heart problems. So they bred out what they thought was a toxic component, and they renamed it canola oil because a lot of it's grown in Canada, and put it on the market. But there really are some problems with canola oil. It's very low in saturated fat and very high in omega-3s. The omega-3s get rancid during processing. And when they tested on the animals still had the heart problems. So,
wow.
Yeah. And then, of course, it's genetically engineered. And who knows what problems that adds.
Wow. So if someone offers you something that was baked in canola oil, you just say no.
Yeah.
Now, what are some of the worst oils to cook with, do you think?
Well, any oil that's liquid, when you put it in the refrigerator, that means it's highly polyunsaturated. And olive oil is fine to cook with because it gets solid in the refrigerator.
Okay.
So it's monounsaturated and it's safe. The monounsaturated and the saturated fats are the safe fats to cook in. The polyunsaturated oils, so that's corn, soy, canola, safflower, sunflower, all of those oils are highly reactive. And when you cook in these kind of oils, you create what's called free radicals, which is the number one cause of cancer and even heart disease.
Wow. Now, what else are these oils doing when they're rancid before you even start cooking with them? And then you cook with them on, perhaps maybe people cook with them on these toxic frying pans and things like that. What happens in the body besides creating free radicals? I mean, why are they so damaging, do you think?
Well, when you get these oils, let's just say you've got a bottle of vegetable oil. So it is already rancid. It has gone through horrendous processing, very much like oil goes through processing to make gasoline. There's very high temperatures used, a lot of pressure, a lot of chemicals, exposed to oxygen. So that bottle may look and smell clean, but it is full of free radicals. And those free radicals in the body are like marauders. They initiate uncontrolled reactions in the body. The trans fats interfere with receptors, enzymes. They interfere with reactions in the body, and the liquid vegetable oils cause uncontrolled reactions in the body, and you don't want that to happen. You want your body to be controlling everything that happens.
Yeah.
So they lead to oxidation of cholesterol in your body, and it's the oxidized cholesterol that can really cause problems.
Wow, and most products, most baked goods in the stores and everything like that all contain these oils.
Especially in the health food stores.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit complicated to explain, but when the industry saw that America was getting interested in health, they knew they needed a different oil to use in health food stores because they couldn't promote the real polyunsaturates, because every study that you did with these polyunsaturates showed that they cause cancer. So they thought, well, we need a monounsaturated oils, and that's when they developed the canola oil, which is has a lot of monounsaturated in it, but there's still problems with the canola oil.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah, it's important for people to cook with the right oils. What do you think about cooking with like coconut oil and things like that?
I'm not a fan of cooking with coconut oil. I think the coconut oil burns too easily. I just put coconut oil in a mug of hot herbal tea or hot water. That's how I take my coconut oil.
Oh, okay.
But the best fats for cooking are the animal fats. So we cook in bacon fat, we cook in lard, tallow, duck fat, goose fat. These are very stable fats. I also cook in butter, ghee, and olive oil. So you have lots of choices there for healthy fats and oils for cooking.
Now, you just mentioned ghee and butter. We take the green pastures, I think, the raw butter. How is ghee different than regular butter?
Okay, so butter still contains some milk solids.
Okay.
That's what gives butter its flavor. And these milk solids in ghee, they actually gently heat the butter, and the milk solids come to the top and are filtered out, strained out.
Okay.
So ghee is just the butter fat without any of the milk solids in it. And so it's very good for cooking because you can cook it to a higher temperature.
Wow. And does it contain any different fat-soluble vitamins or nutrients than butter?
No, it'll be just what was in the butter will be in the ghee.
Okay, I've never tried ghee before. I should try that.
It's really great, especially for curries and Indian cooking, things like that.
Oh, okay. So do you do a lot of like the raw milks or the regular milks, the full fat milks and all that?
I don't touch pasteurized, homogenized milk. I can't. And by the way, this is another thing that's contributing to all these digestive disorders is the processed milk. But as you know, I'm a big fan of raw milk, which is a wonderful food, wonderful for pregnant women, wonderful for growing children. It's a real insurance policy to get on the raw milk. And we have a secondary website called A Campaign for Real Milk, and through that we have really made raw milk very popular in this country.
Oh, great. So what is that, a campaign for realmilk.com?
Realmilk.com.
Oh, realmilk.com. Okay.
Yes.
I'm just writing that down here, realmilk.com. Okay, so people can go on that website and find maybe some locations where they can get milk? Or
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
And it's listed by state. Where are you, Justin?
We're in California, Southern California.
Yeah, well, that's no problem. You can get it in stores in Southern California.
Yeah, I do a lot of the raw milk from time to time, and I love it. I think it's great, but I do have a little bit of an issue with it in my stomach. My stomach seems to go south a little bit when I take that, but I don't know. Is that normal?
Well, some people do better on the cultured milks like kefir or yogurt. Mm-hmm. The other thing I say about milk is a food and not a beverage, and you need to sip it slowly, bring it to room temperature, and consume it slowly. You don't want to just gulp down your whole glass of milk. Sort of be like swallowing a sandwich.
Yeah, because it's a very dense kind of, even though it's liquid, it's very dense and very like a food, like you said. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, and
it should be full fat, always full fat. The fats are very important for digesting the milk.
Okay. So I wanted to stick a little bit with the celiac and all of that. What kinds of things would you recommend if someone does have celiac or IBS and things like that? What would you recommend aside from maybe this traditional diet? Are there any supplements that they could take as well, or?
Well, I would recommend something called the GAPS diet. It's called Gut and Psychology Syndrome, and this is it's a temporary diet for healing the gut. Mm-hmm. And it starts off quite restrictive. No grains, no disaccharides, so no sugar, no potatoes. But what you do take on this diet is lots and lots of bone broth. And bone broth contains lots of cartilage elements in it. And believe it or not, the lining of your small intestine has a layer of cartilage. And that is fed and nourished and built up by these healing bone broths. And they really are magic. And we find the tradition of bone broths being good for health in almost every world tradition.
Well, and you can make bone broth out of just about any kind of animal bone, right?
Right. And once again, there are recipes in nourishing traditions. There's a whole chapter on, we call them stocks, but it's bone broth.
Yeah,
I use the term interchangeably.
Yeah, people do them with like chicken feet. We do them with the turkey carcass that we just had for Thanksgiving.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't ever throw the bones away. They're really, really, you can turn them into wonderful stocks and soups. We use the stocks for making sauces and gravies and so forth.
Now, can you reboil the carcass like maybe twice? Does that work?
It's funny. I just learned about this. There's something called, it's like remoulage or something like that. But that's not the word. But it's a French word, which means boiling the bones again to make a light stock.
Oh, really?
So you can do that, yes.
Wow, that's amazing. So you would probably get not as powerful of a stock the second time, obviously.
No, it would be much thinner. Yeah.
And so you have recipes for that in your book, Nourishing Traditions, right?
Yes, I do. Yes.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Well, I just wanted to say we have to sign off from Natural News Radio. So thank you to Mike Adams of naturalnewsradio.com. I really, really appreciate being on his network. So with the stock now, we add in different things like reishi mushroom and goji berries and stuff like that to make it kind of,
absolutely. You can parsley, vegetables.
Yeah, I love the way the stock, I mean, the meat just falls off the bone. It's incredible.
Yes. Yeah. And then you just chop up that meat, put it back in the stock, and you've got a wonderful soup.
Yeah.
And for people who are coming off vegetarianism, that is the way to do it, with these beautiful bone broths. And eat your meat with the broth, and the meat will be much more digestible that way. You know,
we were doing that just the other day, and do you think there's any issue with, you know how a lot of people will say that you shouldn't, drink a lot of water with your meals and things like that because the liquid dilutes the hydrochloric acid? Do you think there's an issue with drinking all the broth with the meat?
I think it's just the opposite. I do agree that drinking a lot of water, for example, with your meal will dilute your digestive juices, but the broth helps your digestive juices work better.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that actually goes into the colon and intestine and massages the villi, is that right?
Well, it goes into the small intestine, and the collagenous components are absorbed by the cells lining the digestive tract.
Wow. In our stock the other day that we made, it was amazing when it was in the refrigerator the day before we had it. I mean, it looked like gelatin. It was almost solidified. And then once you cook it up, it turns to liquid. But, oh man, it was so deep and so rich.
Yeah, that's real health-giving food. Very nourishing food. And that's really the best thing for someone with digestive gut issues, someone who has not wanted to nourish their bodies, with food issues. Eating disorders, and then for people who've been vegans or vegetarians. First thing I would always suggest is to make some chicken stock.
So is there a place to buy the chicken stock if people don't want to make it? Yes,
there is. And once again, there are more and more sources for these things. If you go to westonaprice.org and order our shopping guide, we've just come out with our 2013 shopping guide.
Oh, okay.
You can order it on the order page, and it's just $1. No, excuse me, we have raised the price to $3, but just $3. And there is a page in there on soups and stocks, and it's much longer this year than it was last year. So, yeah, there's a lot of sources, and people will send it to you.
I totally get the fact that people are, living busy lives, and, both parents are working maybe, and kids are in school, and there's not a lot of time for this. And so that buying these kinds of products is really kind of a good thing for people. But with that said, what are your thoughts about people taking the time and putting the effort in and really putting intention into their food and taking time and realizing and all of that stuff, that traditional cultures all did? What are your thoughts about?
Oh, I just think it's very important. I think if nobody in the family has time to cook, then you kind of need to sit down and re-examine what you're doing and make time. And it doesn't have to be a lot of time. You can have a slow cooker, buy a chicken once a week, plunk that chicken in a slow cooker. You end up with broth and chicken, and you can use that chicken for curry and tacos or whatever you want, chicken stew. If you just do that, that's easy, and will put you on the path to being a good cook. The other thing I always say to people is make your own salad dressing. Don't use any of these bottled dressings. They are just horrible garbage.
Right. Putting it lightly. Yeah, wow. So, yeah, I think it's important for people to really put time and effort into their food preparation because, what else are you going to, your health is your wealth, right?
What else are you spending your time on?
Yeah, watching TV or things.
I heard a very interesting story about a child who had terrible seizures, and he was extremely delayed developmentally. His skin was so sensitive you couldn't touch him. Mm-hmm. And the parents they were just desperate, and they did this GAPS diet. And the woman she couldn't boil water. She'd never cooked a thing in her life. Mm-hmm. But she learned, and she ended up learning how to make stock and cook the bones and make chicken liver pate, and she did all these things, and the child recovered.
Wow.
It was just a beautiful story. And just I know that there are people who are very nervous about going in the kitchen, but you just have to bite the bullet and try.
Yeah.
You know, all of us who cook have made lots of mistakes in the kitchen, but you just keep cooking.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, yeah, we spend a lot of time in the kitchen, and, you know, I'd rather be doing that than watching TV or anything else, you know.
Watch TV in the kitchen.
There you go.
You can do both. Yes, right.
So you do a lot of fermented foods as well, right?
Yes. Now, that was another big topic that Nourishing Traditions introduced to the whole population. So I make sauerkraut. I make a lot of pickled things. I do pickled beet juice called beet kvass. Ooh. So, yeah, those are all in the book. And what we did was work out a method that was quite easy and foolproof. You don't want a lot of failures doing this. So.
Yeah, it's fermented foods. Every culture has had them, and they're
every single culture in the entire planet has one or more fermented foods that provides enzymes and good bacteria for digestion. Yeah. And that's what we have not had in the last 3 to 4 generations. And there is yet another reason why we have so many digestive problems.
Yeah. And then once you start having digestive problems, I mean, it's crazy how that cascades, because that's kind of the beginning of everything, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a vicious circle too.
Yeah, because a friend of mine is dealing with rheumatoid arthritis, and she's only, I think, 33 or something. And,
oh my goodness!
And I think a lot of these, issues are coming up because of people's intestinal walls, and intestinal health isn't correct.
Right. Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
That's amazing.
Now the bone broth, all the things we've been talking about—the bone broth, the fermented foods, the cod liver oil, the organ meats, the butter. All of these would be very good for rheumatoid arthritis.
Yeah, I imagine they'd be very dense and very healing and soothing, right?
Yes.
Wow, amazing. So what are some of your plans? What kinds of things are you working on coming up?
Well, I have a new book coming out in February. It's the Nourishing Traditions book of baby and child care.
Ooh.
Kind of a mouthful there. Yeah, and that's just about to go to the printers. And it will have chapters on diet, preparing for pregnancy, feeding newborns, support for breastfeeding, and if you can't breastfeed, our homemade formula, which is based on raw milk. And then there's chapters on discipline and taking care of your little baby and so on. And then the last half of the book is written by Dr. Cowan, is holistic treatments for childhood illnesses.
Wow, so when is that going to be available?
You can pre-order it from Amazon, but it'll be available in February.
Oh, excellent. That's an area of interest for us because we are preparing for that as well for our first kid. And so that is something
just in time for you.
Yeah, totally. That's great.
Yeah. Excellent.
Okay. So anything else you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, thank you. I just would hope that after listening to this show, they would go to WestonAPrice.org. Spend some time on our website. We have a beginner's tour, and hopefully you'll become a member of the Weston A. Price Foundation to support the work we do and to receive our quarterly journal.
Oh, excellent.
And members get email alerts. They get monthly update by email, and they get our shopping guide, our yearly shopping guide.
Oh, great. So people can sign up for your newsletter list right there.
Yeah, we call it a membership. They become a member, and they get it's a print journal. But then everything from the journal is put on the website. Everything we publish is free to the public.
Oh, wow. So it's free to join and be a member?
No, it's $40 for membership.
Okay, excellent. Wow, that's great. Wow, well, thank you, Sally, for being on the show today.
Thank you, Justin. It was a pleasure.
Yeah. Would you mind holding on just as I close out the show? All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. What a great show with Sally Fallon. I would recommend checking out Weston A. Price and really look into that, into her work. I think you're going to be really, really, enjoy it. So thank you for listening. And also, I wanted to let you know that this show is 100% listener supported. So if you can donate, we would greatly, greatly appreciate it. We have to make sure that we stay sustainable and keep the engines running here. So if you want to donate, you can donate as little as $1, and every bit would be much appreciated. If you cannot, though, don't worry about it. No problem. I just want you to enjoy our website and learn as much as you can. Perhaps you can pass it on to your friends or follow us on Facebook and share our content that way. We also have have a mailing list as well, so if you want to check that out. There's lots of great content on there. And we have a store as well with lots of great products like DVDs and books and blenders and dehydrators and all kinds of stuff like that, rebounders. So check out our store for lots of great products. That's another way that we're going to be staying sustainable. And thank you again to Mike Adams of naturalnewsradio.com. And let me know if there's anything I can do for you. Just email me, Justin at extremehealthradio.com. I'd love to hear from you and connect with you.